All right, welcome everybody back to our Merit channel. I'm Burt, this is Evan, and we are excited to be here today with you. So we're gonna do something kind of cool today. We're gonna do a comparison video between the GT3, 2018 GT3, and the 2019 GT3 RS. Now, we've all seen comparison videos. We're gonna do that, but we're gonna have a little bit of fun with this one. So what the objective in all this is for me to prove and to sell or influence you guys on why you should buy a GT3 RS, while Evan will be trying to do the same with his GT3. Personally, I think I appreciate the courage he has to show up in this because it's not really a fair fight. But at the same time, we'll see what he has to say. So expect there to be a liberal use of jabs and sarcasm, but all the while knowing that both these cars are wonderful cars. So let me just get that, wonderful cars. But we're doing this for the fun of actually just defending and selling on why we think one car is better than the other. Now, as it goes, it's standard comparison rules when you're talking about this, which is no eye gouging, no hair pulling, no ear biting, no scratching or clawing. However, the liberal use of cheap shots is encouraged. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. We're actually good friends, but you probably won't know it from this video.
Definitely not.
But we're looking forward to talking to you about it. Evan, any comments you have?
Yeah, one thing that I'll say is that, look, like Burt said, these two cars are incredible, especially these specific examples. But really, it's like Mila Kunis against any other actress, fill in the blank, beautiful model, whatever you want to say. I'm just able to defend Mila against anyone else. She holds a special place in my heart. So this actually is going to be relatively easy to influence you guys. I think by the end of the video, you'll see why the GT3 overall is better than the RS. Again, RS is a fantastic car. I love the RS. But
you got done?
I think we'll have a victory on our hands today.
So apparently Evan went out, started reading, and learned a new word. So he's excited. He thinks that's what's going to put him over the top.
I also learned how to drive manual, so that helped too.
It does. And we appreciate the fact that normally this would be Xanadu with these type of cars, but in this environment, we're going to call it Corona-do.
We have our barrier in between us.
Hence our hair, and we have sprayed an invisible wall of Lysol between us. So there's going to be no cross-contamination between us. So with that said, let the games begin.
Oh! All right, guys, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna spend some time here in the warehouse talking about our impressions of each car. We're then gonna take the cars out, do a little drive. Obviously, I don't have the opportunity to ride with Burt because of coronavirus. Otherwise, I'd just be shooting down all of his comments while we're riding. And then we're gonna come back and do a conclusion, wrap it up, and tell people why the GT3 is the better car.
Good luck. Good luck with that.
Thank you. So why don't you start us off, Burt? What do you love about the RS?
So legend has it that how the GT3 even came about was that some Porsche engineers were in and they were building the RS, and when they finished building the RS, one of them said, hey Fred, we have some leftover parts. What do you want to do with them? And Fred says, well, we could build just a GT3 without the RS moniker. So that's really how the GT3 came about. Leftover parts from the RS were used to make this car. Nothing wrong with that. It had leftover parts. But at the same time, you think, would I rather have the thing that they actually were set out and designing and put all their effort into, or would I rather have leftovers?
Or
leftovers.
Would you rather them build a car and say, wow, this thing is really, really harsh and maybe too harsh for the road, so let's make a car that can do both really well. So let's put some things from our normal 911 models, the GTS, the Turbo. Let's put some things into the GT3 with still plenty of racing components, but make it a little bit more user-friendly for the road, more comfortable for the road, that makes it easier to drive on a daily basis.
Again, a line straight from the driver improvement series. Here's what you've got here. The actual thing is, if we blindfolded people, put them in a GT3 and a GT3 RS, you would be able to tell no difference in terms of the compliance of the ride. They're eerily similar in terms of their compliance. So the argument about all-around capability, driving it, comfort, that kind of thing, if you want to drive something comfortable, why don't you go and get a Toyota Camry? Because that's comfortable, okay? The very nature of these cars is all about driving a true sports car, not a sports GT touring car.
Here's the problem with your argument. We see the people, I'm gonna go with your golf course analogy here. We see people all the time show up to the golf course. They've got the full Travis Matthews outfit on. They've got the brand new clubs. They've got the new tailor-made driver, the ping irons. They've got everything. They step up to the tee, and what do? Shank it hard right.
Right.
This car, 95% of us cannot touch the limits and the capabilities of this car. We are able to enjoy this car for a fraction of the price.
You know, this came from Evan's very mouth 2 days ago. I was asking him what he thought about driving the RS. He drove it back. He said to me, I really loved it, but the steering is super quick. I mean, you gotta be ready. So again, if you've got slow hands, if you're a beginner, if you want something that reacts quickly and you're nervous about your driving skills, then this is a great car to have. Jump in a GT3. I mean, it's more of the everyman's car, whereas the RS being a little bit more the driver's car.
Does your car come in stick shift? Does it come in? Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's right. This car actually has stick shift, is a manual. When we talk about a driver's car, a little bit more involvement.
Because we all want to be slower when we get in one of these cars.
Little heel toe action, which I'll show you guys later.
He's never used the heel toe. He always pushes the sport button and it auto blips for you.
Burt,
so really what you got is a manual hybrid. It's somewhere between a manual and a PDK.
I was gonna do the rev matching using that and tell people it was heel toe. We'll talk about that later.
Let's talk a little bit about materials of the car. So
Here we go. Magnesium.
So materials of the car. When you make this car, this car has been made with the liberal use of aluminum and reinforced steel. Even the exhaust is stainless steel. I cooked eggs this morning in my stainless steel skillet. Now, if you want the same thing wrapping around you that you actually had your omelet in, this is a wonderful car. It's even the color of an egg. Sort of some foreshadowing of
Signal
that.
yellow is beautiful.
Here you go, carbon, magnesium, titanium, the same things that the space shuttle is made out of. This is the same thing that a Honda Accord is made out of. They're all the same. There's no difference here. So would you rather be wrapped in titanium, a mix of exotic materials, titanium, magnesium, carbon?
A softer metal?
or would you rather be wrapped in the same thing that 99% of the cars now made are wrapped in, which is aluminum and reinforced steel?
Yeah, and you can definitely tell all the magnesium and the exotic metals under that Miami blue paint, can't you? Yeah, you can really see all of the exotic materials that go into that. What you're gonna go to the golf course and tell all your friends, hey guys, my GT3 RS out there, filled with magnesium, filled with exotic metals. His GT3 over there, steel. You're gonna be that guy?
Let's talk about this for a second. This is paint to sample egg yolk. That's what color this is. Egg yolk yellow.
It's beautiful.
So if you got an egg yolk car and you're confident in that, I will give you a course. It takes confidence to drive around paint to sample egg yolk.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yes, it does.
While thinking about the same things that I'm cooking my eggs in is what this car's made out of.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't we take them out on the road? We'll try to explain to them why this is better than that, and we'll come back here and give our final arguments. Let's say
final arguments. Well, welcome to the driver portion of our GT3 RS GT3 comparison. So right off the bat here, one thing you're going to notice, and with both these cars, hard to tell all the differences between them on the street because we're not driving at a high rate of speed. But one thing you will notice immediately about the RS is that
the sound from the titanium exhaust coming through the back windshield. It's like having a subwoofer just pumping the sound and just throws it through. It's actually much more noticeable than it is on the GT3. So the sound, GT3 just doesn't have that. Lightweight glass, carbon, magnesium, all works like a sound amphitheater, really to project the sound, so you truly get more of that sound when you step on the accelerator. But here's one thing about Evan, about the point he made about the all-around capability of the GT3. One little known fact about this is that the RS has the same decibel level as a Carrera S at 70 miles an hour. So at 70 miles an hour, both are showing 75 decibels of sound. So you can drive this RS and actually drive it quite tamely in terms of noise or sound. Whereas in the GT3, you're talking about this all-around capability. No difference in ride quality, no difference in sound, actually equivalent to a Carrera S when you're just cruising. But then when you step on it at 100 miles an hour, decibel level goes up at 9,000 RPMs to 102. So 102 decibels at 100 miles an hour, which is cruising speed for this car, compared to a Carrera S in that case would be 14 decibels more than a Carrera S. The other thing that you see with this car is again the sharper handling on it. So wider track, quick, bigger contact patch, better turn in. And I don't know about you, but better turn in is a better thing all the way around. So you've got the sound when you want it to be there. You've got a turn in that is very athletic in the way that you can get the front end planted. And then you've got the aero advantage. So this car has twice the aero that a GT3 does at 124 miles an hour. So when you are driving it hard, whether it be on the track or the mountain road, you're going to be sucked down, really glued down to the road, and you're going to get that. The GT3, if you're looking at it, it's a good car in that sense, but the difference in price between what you get in this car with all the exotic materials, the titanium, the carbon, the magnesium, and the exhaust, if you added those components up individually, you'd come out to $100,000 more than a GT3, when the difference is really not that big. So as we're sitting here, driver position is going to be exactly the same, steering wheel exactly the same. It won't feel any different. The one thing you do get is stepping into one of these cars and sitting in it, because most people aren't going to drive a GT3 or an RS as their daily driver. And so when you sit down in this, the experience of it with the front vents up here that you can see when you're looking over the front end, and the rear wing is high enough so you actually it doesn't impede your vision from the rear. Whereas the GT3, you're going to see that wing clearly in the rear window. What that tells you is that from an all-around capability, the RS is actually a bit more friendly in terms of its visibility out the rear window than even the GT3 is. And then I had that feeling of just being in something extra special. I mean, it's extra special. Ride right now, we're just cruising along. Ride quality is fantastic. I drove the GT3 in this morning, and there was no difference in the ride quality of these two cars. One of the things about this car when you start to turn in is I brake hard and turn in, you can hear the shifts. And I mean, that's what you want in this car. You want to be able to hear the shifts, hear the noise. When you want it to be there, it's there. And it's awesome. So that sound pushing through, hard on the brake, you get that punch of sound right there. It's just so exciting. That's the part about, you don't have to be on a track to enjoy this car. You can enjoy those sensations even as you're out on these turns, braking hard, and then you accelerate for a minute, pull off, you hear the sound, you get a lot of that experience that you do while you're out on the track. Of course, the quality of ride here as you turn it, if you've got soft hands, which Evan really doesn't, he's gripping the wheel like this, so everything feels a little sharper. Steering ratios are not as tight as what he would think they are, but when you're over gripping the wheel, you feel that. So light touch on the wheel, and this thing does exactly what you want it to do almost before you can even think of doing it. So we're going to flip around here and go back through. Let's hear that exhaust at close to 9,000. I mean, is there anything else I need to say at this point? Are you thinking GT3 when you hear that? It blows me away how good this car is and how available that sound is. This isn't a noise that's piped in like on other cars. This is a noise that is always there, ready to go, available anytime you want to stomp on the throttle. But it can be tame if you're just riding and just cruising around. It is a bigger car, but you don't really get that sense of any additional size as you're driving the car. It feels so nimble and athletic, and then when you get it planted and you just stop on the brake, it abruptly stops with no wiggle in the back. That bigger, wider track, bigger wheels in the back give you just that additional stability, whether you're going fast or whether you're just cruising. You just have more confidence in the car. In terms of some of the performance matrix, you're looking at a car when compared to the GT3. On the Nürburgring, GT3 turned to 712. This car turned to 656. So a time that was very similar to what the 918 turned, which is amazing. On a smaller track like a Road Atlanta, this car is 4 seconds faster than the GT3 on a 2.5 mile track like a Road Atlanta. So what would you pay for 4 seconds of performance? I've watched people pay a whole lot more money than the 40 grand or so delta between these two cars and not get near that level of improvement in terms of performance. So you got 4 seconds better in speed. You got a car that is going to give you, sensation-wise, more of an experience with the noise and the exhaust. Occasionally, as far as the occasion of the car and the hint that it is a more special car, you see that from the front vents to the wing, just to the overall layout of the car. So you get that. There's really not something that you can say that would convince me that the GT3 would be not only a better all-around car, but a better value than this car when you're looking at what you gain in terms of performance. The only place that the GT3 would probably beat this in terms of performance is top speed, but that's only because the aero in this car limits the ability to get above 193 miles an hour. Will you ever be on a track where you're going to go 193 miles an hour? No. So that's just phantom performance. That's never going to be even used. But what you will find is that the aero in even aggressive street driving, or if you do get to the track, is going to be apparent. You're going to see it immediately. With a greater feeling of stability in the overall car, just because of the wider track, the bigger wheels, and the aero aids like the front splitter, the bigger wing. It's got a lot more available that you can look at and use from a performance modification point than a base GT3 does. I see people get these GT3s and they want to go and they want to add stuff, so they immediately adding things like an extended rear wing, extended uprights, bigger wing, more aggressive front splitter, bigger brakes, control arms. They're trying to be an RS on a base GT3. That's the thing they're trying to do. They're trying to take their GT3 and turn it into an RS. Why not just buy an RS? Why not take what the factory gave you in terms of all this performance in a factory kit that is better than you can ever do on the aftermarket, and put it in the car and buy it as is? Value? Not only you're spending a little bit more, but you're also getting less depreciation on the car because fewer of these cars were made. And if given the choice, apples to apples, when you compare everything, would anybody take a GT3 over an RS if the money was the same? No. So I'm just taking this and elevating it up a little bit to point out some of the specific differences in the car that you don't find on a GT3. Now, here's something that's pretty funny. I was watching a video of, I think a lot of GT3 owners, like an Evan who's slow-handed, are also more inclined to be the ones that wear their racing gloves on the street as they're just driving around. I was watching another video on the GT3 a couple of days ago. No kidding. The guy had on his racing gloves driving around the street. They didn't even look like racing gloves. I think they were more like gardening gloves. They looked like they were 2 sizes too big for him. And he's wearing a short sleeve shirt, so he looked stupid. But that's what I think, that if you think about wearing your racing gloves on the street, don't do it. Don't do it, because people are going to make fun of you. Wait till you get to the track and put them on then. But that's the drive in this car. An amazing car. One of the best cars that I've ever driven in terms of the overall package. You got 20 more horsepower in this car than the GT3 does. It's about a half second quicker in the quarter, 11 compared to 11.5, and then it's going to be a tenth quicker in terms of 0 to 60 speed, 2.9 versus 3. So there you go. RS all the way. Is there any doubt?
All right, here we are driving the GT3. Now I know Burt's probably gonna go off on some long tangent with facts and figures and obviously exotic metal talks, but I've decided to keep this simple and narrow it down to 3 reasons why this car is better than the RS. And the first reason is this: the manual transmission. The RS doesn't even offer the manual, and for these cars, I mean, they're going to be most likely the person's second car who owns these. So this is a weekend car, this is a mountain drive car, this is a track car. And for a car that you are driving on an infrequent basis, you want it to be an experience every time you get in. You want to hop in and have it be different than the car that you've been driving day in and day out. And I think the manual transmission allows that to happen. Porsche's always made really great transmissions, and this one's no different. The gears are really close together. I mean, you can just throw this so easily into every gear. It makes this car so much more enjoyable. It makes you connected to the car, and it's fun. As simple as that sounds, it's just fun to drive a manual transmission on the track. And the one thing that's great about this car is, if you're not a professional driver and if you're like me and haven't perfected the heel toe method, this car has the auto blip feature, which allows you to downshift, and the car automatically matches the revs to help you out. So I love it, and I think it's a great reason why this car is better than the RS. Reason number 2 is performance. Now, Burt said earlier, you know, his car is however many seconds faster around the Nürburgring than this car, and I think that does a disservice to how great this car actually is. This car, 500 horsepower, it did the Nürburgring 8 seconds faster than the outgoing RS, the 991.1 RS. So this 991.2 GT class, the GT3, they're so much better than the previous models. They tied so much stuff together. It's such a better driving car. It's obviously faster. I just love it. And I think that, again, this car is everything that you need. I mean, listen to this. It redlines to 9,000 just like the RS. It screams just like the RS. Turning on this car is so involving. I mean, you get a little bit of oversteer, and then you just put your foot down, and that 500 horsepower brings the car right back in line. I don't see how you could need that much more. I mean, unless you're a Randy Popes, unless you're really trying to set lap time records and you're really trying to improve on that area, okay, RS might be a little better, but for the person that's driving this car on the mountain roads and taking it to the track occasionally, this is just such an amazing machine that, do you really need 20 more horsepower? Do you really need a magnesium whatever? No, this is everything you need. I also don't need the massive wing behind me and the huge flared hips with the intakes. I mean, this is on those brakes. These are steel brakes, so they grab on quickly. I just love this car. That brings me to my third and final reason this car is better than the RS, and that's value. Burt's car is $40,000 more expensive than this car. $40,000. That's a brand new Ford F-150 Lariat that you can have for your daily driver and still own this car. I mean, yes, the RS might hold its value a little better than the GT3, maybe. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know that for sure. All right, guys, so we're back from our drives in our respective vehicles. And I think it's time for closing arguments. So if you don't mind, I'm going to start. I'm going to go first. Will you please show the audience your watch, Burt? Now, if you'll look at my watch as well, okay? Both Garmin's, I'd like to point out. When Burt first received his watch, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a really, really cool, nice watch. So I went out and did some research on Garmin's and found that you can get a watch that does 95% of what his watch does for a fraction of the price, a quarter of the price, actually. So what did I do? I went out and I purchased my Garmin. Does 95% of what his does. I'll admit, his watch tracks you when you do lap times on the track. Really cool, really cool. But he can only use that once a month, maybe, if we get out to the track once a month. Same thing applies with these cars. It's a fantastic car, but it's built for the track. It's not built for the road. You can only experience that maybe once a month. This car, all around, has a manual transmission, so every time you get in it, it's an experience. It's fun, it's a great weekend car. It can do 95% of what that car can do in a cheaper package, a fraction of the price of that car. So I just think this car, as great as the RS is, overall, all around, yeah, it's a game improvement iron, sure. But the majority of us are not race car drivers. The majority of us are driving this on the road with PCA, mountain drives, doing fun things like that. So I think that's a hard argument to overcome, but this is the winner, no doubt. GT3.
Excellent. All excellent points, Evan. I mean, well said.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you.
However,
Okay.
here's the counterpoint. To specifically speak to your thought about 95% of the RS, people buy this because that extra 5% in this car is so special. When you get into one of these cars, you want, and this isn't a daily driver, this is an occasional experience. And the occasion of the 5% in this is significantly more. When you think about Road Atlanta, you get on Road Atlanta, 4 seconds faster on average in this. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get that performance, and they can't get it. It's here with about a 40 grand delta between the two cars. So you talk about performance, 5% is a big, big difference on a track. What about everyday civility? Everyday civility, there's no difference in the drive quality of these cars. When you're driving these cars around, identical. You can't tell the difference in these. They're both compliant. They both use a very similar shock and damper package. So ride quality, very similar. Actually, cruising in this car at 70 miles an hour is 75 decibels, which is the same as a Carrera S. Now, if you step on it, and run it to 9,000, you run up to 102 decibels, so you get the best of all worlds. You get track car when it wants to be, but you get everyday stability when you don't need it to be. That's the great thing about it. And then you get the uniqueness. Evan mentioned the watches. Every time he slips his watch on his wrist, he's always hoping and wishing that he had the big boy, that he had the big Garmin right here. That's why he's trying to get out and sell more cars, so he can eventually work his way up to this. It's a good starter watch. It's a good place to be. Good place to be, good place to start. But let's face it, when you think about it and moving up the chain, this is where you want to end up, right here. And then the last thing is value of this car. When you consider that there's about a 40 grand delta between these two cars, and all the extra things that you get with this car, the titanium, the magnesium, the carbon, the exhaust, the sound, everything is amplified in this car to a level that it reminds you of just how special it is when you get into it. Great car, but you'll always want to be in this seat. So if you have the opportunity and you look at it and you really put it down on paper, the choice is clear. The RS is going to be the car.
Well, I think we both had our closing arguments. At the end of the day, guys, these are two amazing cars.
Guys, we have really enjoyed this time. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was fun. We'll do more like this. Please vote on the winner, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I think that was great.